Hi there, this is the companion video to the NHK tournament video I posted earlier. You can find the link to the unedited footage of my fights in the video description down below. The video you're watching now will be more heavily edited, with highlights, background information, technical analysis, commentary and so on. Before I begin, any feedback on how to make these videos better is more than welcome. Just post a comment if you have anything to say, anything at all. Right, so this video is about my fights at the NHK. Let's first begin with explaining what the NHK actually is. The NHK is an acronym that stands for Nederlandse HEMA-kampioenschappen. And no, I did not choke on my own phlegm just now, that's just the Dutch way of saying Dutch HEMA Championships. This is the first year that the Dutch HEMA Federation is organizing this national championship. It's set up like a league, and that means that there are 4 separate events spread out across the year, and a winner will be chosen based on the cumulative results of the previous 4 events. All of these will have a women's longsword tournament, an open longsword tournament split up into 2 divisions, and lastly a variable weapon discipline that's different for each event. In event 1, this was rapier. In event 2, it will be saber. In the next events, who knows? The divisions might warrant a bit more explanation. Anyone can sign up to the open longsword tournament. When registrations are filled up, the top half of the participants will be placed in division 1, the bottom half will be placed in division 2. This ranking is initially done with the help of data from HEMA ratings, but as the league continues, more and more of that will come from data from the league itself. And the way this is achieved is that the top 4 of Division 2 will automatically move to Division 1 in the next event, and the same goes in reverse for the bottom 4 of Division 1. They will automatically be placed in Division 2. So before we jump into the fights, I'll say that prior to this event I didn't feel like I was in tip-top shape. After the Dutch Lions Cup in end of August, I didn't really take any rest. I just went on training hard and often, both HEMA practice and lifting weights. At the end of October though, my energy just sort of disappeared. I went to Swordfish and I did kind of okay there, but after I got back home I just didn't train as well as I would have liked. I still went to HEMA practice, but in those weeks I just sort of went there to swing a sword a bit instead of actually training with a concerted effort to improve my skills. It was like my motivation had been set too low or something. I didn't see the inside of a gym for 2 months. And just before the NHK I was finally getting on top of things again, but I didn't feel like I was in the best shape I could be. So I didn't really have any goals other than to fight to the best of my ability under those circumstances. Trying to focus on performing any specific technique besides that, I just didn't feel like I had enough technical capacity to, keep that in mind going into the tournament. By this time though, I'd been working on thrusts for a while, so I was going to at least try to land a few of those. So now we have that out of the way, let's jump into the actual video. Unfortunately though, I'm not going to be able to go through each and every fight of the day. I'll definitely leave out my rapier fights because let's face it, no one's going to learn anything from that except how not to do rapier. I also won't be showing my longsword pool fights. If I did, this video would end up being over 40 minutes long and no one's got time for that. Basically my pools were filled with exchanges such as this. And this. And this. So yeah, it wasn't very pretty. I was quite timid at the start, and when I tried to correct for that, I ended up being a bit too much helicopter-ish. It was only later that I started to find my rhythm a bit, at the end of the pool phase, which leads us nicely into the elimination rounds. The first opponent in the elimination round was Alexander Bosma. I fought him before plenty of times because, well, he trains at my club, so I kind of knew what to expect going in. I think the fact that Alexander jokingly calls himself the Dutch windmill sometimes will tell you all you need to know about the main problem you face when you fight him. I knew I could expect him to attack, and then keep on attacking and keep on attacking until he hit me, and then keep on attacking some more. So my main goal going in was to either hit him and block all counterattacks, which is risky, or, when possible, to attack in such a way that the counterattack is impossible, such as upsets or, well, really any kind of solid, good thrust. So there's something that happens in both of these exchanges. Alexander throws an attack, and I make a direct counter-attack with just my arms in either no step at all or a step back. This is something that I've been doing automatically for a while now, and I want to stop doing it. The strike I make doesn't cover me, and there's no mass or reach behind it, so it really is less than optimal in pretty much every conceivable way. I'm throwing this out there so that I can be held accountable and so that people can call me out on it. If you see me do it, punish it by pressing the attack. I don't have anything really substantive to say about these thrusts other than the fact that I'm really happy with these thrusts. I'm just really happy that it wasn't just like a thrust and then nothing, but that there was actually sufficient structure behind it that it made counterattacking for him completely impossible, and it even threw him to the ground one of the 2 times. That means that my structure is strong enough that it properly supports the thrust. Okay, so consider this a lesson in how not to do a Scheitelhau. If you do a Scheitelhau, do not hold after your Scheitelhau and then pull back in your wind, but keep your forward momentum going. If you don't, he'll just step back and you're sort of angling with your point in the void. My next opponent is Brian van Nunen, another clubmate of mine. Brian is someone who has snatched victory from the jaws of defeat multiple times in tournaments. When he has a good day, he's very dangerous indeed. I beat him earlier that day in the pool phase, but I think all of us know that this isn't any sort of guarantee. It was very clear from quite early on that Brian had a game plan. He's very strong in both far and mid-range fighting, but most of the time there's a good chance that I will beat him in that range. But he knows that when it comes to wrestling distance, we're much more equal. So throughout the fight he tries to enter ring and distance. As a side note, the rules of the NHK prohibited any throwing actions, so wrestling was limited to dominance standing up. Eventually I got wise to it and I managed to sort of control the distance and make sure that his ring and attempts were met with a strike as he came in, so that his ring and attempts wouldn't actually come to anything. But it was really exhausting to try and fight through this. He kept the pressure up really well. And then I got to the semi-finals where I would be fighting Kool. Did I have a game plan? Nah, as far as I can tell, Tease doesn't really have that one exploitable weakness that I can plan for. I just needed to bring the best fight that I had in me. I don't need to tell anyone just how fast and strong he is and how tight his movement is. And I needed to really bring the best that I had to the table to be able to beat him. And at that time I didn't really think that I had what I needed. This was only the second time I ever met him in a tournament, by the way. I could bring in some old footage to compare, but that is Copenhagen 2015. That is 4 years ago. Any comparisons we can make from that are going to be slightly outdated, don't you think? Damn, I do look very slim there, don't I? Jesus, that level change, it's so awesome. And again. Okay, so here we can see the evolution of a thrust from least successful to successful. This first one was just too timid and there was no commitment in it whatsoever. In this second one, there is commitment in it, but I start throwing it from a bit too far away and Tease is back weighted so he can easily just go out of the way. So I have to continue striking and I'm not safe. In this one, I don't initially start out with a thrust, but I do start out with strikes and then go over into a thrust, which is more successful. At least I sort of build it into the exchange as opposed to opening with it. And then the most successful one that I'm extremely proud of myself, everything fell into place. I threw it at the right distance, and Matthys was moving forward as opposed to backwards, so it was a lot more solid. And finally, the finals. For the finals, I would be fighting against Henric Jansen of the HVN. Okay, so I feel extremely old saying this, but I still remember the time when Henric just started out doing longsword. And that feels very, very eerily recent. The fact that he got so good so quickly is a testament to his talent and the great teaching going on at HVN. Now Henric is a very skilled and very technical fighter. He moves very cleanly and he has a mean thrust that comes out of nowhere. One moment you're chilling way out of distance and then your head is whipped backwards and you have to readjust your back of head protection. For Henric though, I did have a game plan. Put on the pressure. Don't give him any room to set up those sniper rifle thrusts of his or any of his other cool stuff. It's actually pretty interesting to go through the footage of this fight because you can clearly see that when I put on proper pressure, I score. And when I don't, Henric scores. I'm afraid that for this fight my fencing was actually quite basic though. All of the highlight reel truly belongs to Henric. My hits were mostly strikes to the arms and shoulders. Henric's were thrusts to the head. It's just that I made more hits all in all, so that led to me winning the fight. But the nicest hits were Henric's. So after a very tough final, I eventually ended up winning the first NHK Open Longsword tournament. There's still another 3 coming though. Winning 1 is very cool and I'm quite happy with it, but the way the championship is set up, winning 1 event doesn't mean much if you screw up all the other ones. So how do I look back on this event? Well, there are definitely a number of things I'm very proud of. I really am quite happy with my fencing from the elimination round onwards, and with the number of thrusts I managed to land in those rounds. I'm less happy about my fencing in the pool phase, however. I did very little to be proud of in those fights. I just don't want my fencing to be just effective enough to win tournaments. I want my fencing to be clean and technical and fun to look at, and I just didn't feel like I achieved that in the pools. Well, all I know is that I'll be better prepared for the next tournament. Since this tournament, my energy has finally returned and I'm back to training with a vengeance. But this time maybe I'll take a rest every now and then. Okay, so that's it for this video. Again, if you have any feedback or anything that you would like to see on this channel, please send me a message or comment on this video and I'll get right to it.